At that moment, the servants were trying to help her get ready with a perfect appearance. She thought, even without a corset, heiress is already so thin. Later, I'll have to convince them to skip this step. After the preparations, she appeared radiant and beautiful. Today was the ceremony for appointing the night squad. She reminded herself, the Marquis family also told me to hire a few more knights, but since I've already made up my mind to die, I hate hiring more knights. They won't be able to protect me, and it will only ruin their lives. Noble knights should entrust their fates to a beautiful young lady. I'll just glance around quickly and leave soon. At the palace, "Good morning, Your Highness," everyone could see from her face that she was forced to be there. As the two appeared, people started whispering, "Lady Michian is truly stunning today. Since when did she become so beautiful? Truly, her beauty is worthy of the position of the crown princess." Her face full of reluctance, she extended her hand and thought to herself how much she hated having to hold this guy's hand since early morning, walking around in circles like this. Normally, being handsome would be enough to be forgiven, but with this guy, that didn't quite apply. She spoke up, "Your Highness, are you planning to just stand here like this?" As soon as she finished speaking, he grabbed her hand with 100% of his strength and pulled her forward. She thought, this has got to be intentional. She stopped and said, "Your Highness, do you hate holding my hand this much? But this is going a bit too far." But then, he suddenly picked her up. "What kind of improper behavior is this, Your Highness?" "Improper? Isn't it you who deliberately dressed so thinly, hoping I'd hold you?" "That's absolutely not true. Could you please put me down?" Right now, she really wanted to grab his head and hit him. "Isn't it true that I'm already headed towards the royal family and marriage, so just keep doing what you're doing. If I cause a scene here, both of us will lose face. I don't know what you requested of His Majesty, but he has ordered me to take good care of you. So you're saying this is entirely my fault?" "You're not wrong. Given your overly sensitive reaction, isn't it because Your Highness didn't gain trust, and that's why you're blaming me?" As soon as she finished speaking, she grabbed his neck hard, causing him pain and forcing him to release her. She fell to the ground with an innocent expression. "Oh dear, Your Highness, if you're feeling tired, you should say something. Why do you have to force yourself like this? Can you forgive a girl as oblivious and dazed as me?" The onlookers murmured, "Is there really a girl in this country who is skinnier than Michian? Watch your mouth. The prince is going to have a hard day today." Before they could say anything, she sprang to her feet and shouted, "Where are the servants? Why aren't they here to hold an umbrella for the prince? If he faints on such an important day, you all will be responsible for it." Immediately, the servants rushed over, frantically holding an umbrella. "Yes, here it is. Your Highness, are you feeling okay? Smile. Didn't His Majesty order you to take good care of me? If His Majesty keeps asking me whether I'm coming, then I must be truly insufferable. So please ask His Majesty to annul the engagement with a wicked and immoral person like me. And do try to say that you want to marry Helena, even if it's forbidden. Or should I also kneel and beg His Majesty with you?" She thought, "You don't dare to argue with your father, that's your problem. Why do you always get angry with me during these times? Even if the servants remind me that my actions are disrespectful, the ceremony is about to begin. If this keeps up, we'll be late." He said, "Never think that His Majesty will love you forever. Because I can make you lose that affection." She replied, "You think I could ever have such a fragile love? I don't see that I have anything at all. Truly miraculous." Afterward, the opening ceremony finally concluded. She felt nauseous and needed to find a way out, as the corset was making her stomach uncomfortable. Facing the royal family really felt like a near-death experience. As she was looking for a place to rest, she heard a commotion ahead. Approaching, she saw a group of people surrounding someone who was rolling on the ground and being beaten. "This bastard fell, and now he's curled up like a caterpillar. Get up and show yourself." After all, this commoner who didn't know his own status and lacked willpower deserved to be beaten. She recognized that the man was a commoner aspiring to become a knight. In this empire, there were only two ways to change one's status: become a knight or become a scholar specializing in magic. According to the original story, even Helen had to clear the family's disgrace and restore noble status to marry the crown prince. What should she do? If his clothes get any dirtier, it might raise more suspicion. He must have wrapped himself in a white cloth to endure the beatings. It seems he has been bullied like this for a long time. As they pulled him out from under the cloth, she realized it was the same man from the other day. She thought nervously, could he recognize me? Should I help him? But what if I intervene and it doesn't benefit anyone? If he views all my threats to kill them as easily as killing a rat and then walks away? How would it look to him? A girl who threatened him like that now coming to save him from being bullied must seem quite hypocritical to him. I won't let anyone laugh at me over a worthless enemy. After all, the one who made the pact with me is that boy, it's not this man. After a while, the knight appointment ceremony began, with nobles eager to expand their connections and hire knights from prominent noble families. For them, this ceremony was a golden opportunity, and everyone was anxious that the knight they chose would be snatched away by someone else. However, I had no intention of appointing a knight, so I relinquished my turn. Strangely enough, the remaining candidates looked older than the other knights. They were knights who had not been selected in previous appointments and had been delayed. I wondered what would happen to them if this continued. The first time might have been due to unfortunate fate, but if they kept getting rejected, there must be a reason. As time passed, they aged further, their strength dwindling. If this continued and they were still not chosen after 10 years, they would likely give up and become mercenaries. Perhaps being a mercenary could earn more money, but if they longed for glory, the outcome wouldn't be sweet. Mercenaries didn't enjoy the privileges that knights did, and commoners with means would prefer knights with clean backgrounds over mercenaries of unclear origin. If they were poor nobles, they still had a chance to marry into wealthy families and elevate their status. Some nobles valued rank more than life itself. The future of such individuals was indeed concerning. Last time, I had carelessly discussed romance and committed a breach of etiquette with the young lady. I thank her for her graciousness. But today, I dare to speak once more. If there's no reason to hesitate, please appoint more knights. The man knelt and said, your choice can save someone. Even if you are not satisfied later and decide to dismiss the knight, he can easily be chosen by another family. These knights had devoted their lives in training camps to become knights. If we did not give them a chance and let their talents wane, wouldn't that be a great pity? Are you begging for my compassion? Yes, please, I ask for your mercy. She thought for a moment and then said, to save someone means I must take responsibility for my actions. It's not as simple as saving an animal by the roadside. When saving a person, the responsibility is even greater. She pointed ahead and asked, will you swear before the gods that you will be loyal and obedient to Lady Eris Michian? He replied, though the path is fraught with hardship and adversity, I am always willing to follow my lady. No temptation can sway me. I didn't think I had saved him in this way. Even if he wasn't chosen, he would gladly wait for an opportunity for several more years. Perhaps I was merely repaying a debt of gratitude to him. Even if I looked down on him, I would certainly repay his humble sincerity this time. What's your name? It's embarrassing, but I have no name. I'm not good at naming. All right, Anakin. I'll call you Anakin. In that moment, a forgotten memory from the novel flashed before me. Beside Eris, who was despised by everyone, there would be a black-clad knight who loved her for the rest of his life. At the royal family gathering ceremony, the fiancé of the crown prince could not leave without bidding farewell. All she wanted was to go home. Good evening, Your Majesty and the Queen. Oh, Eris, you look absolutely radiant today. The royal purple suits you very well. That's all thanks to you for giving me this beautiful handcrafted dress. Haha, you are too humble. I heard that you initially didn't intend to appoint a knight, but what made you change your mind in the end? It's because everyone persuaded me, so I didn't necessarily have to do the opposite, right? Ha, it's good that you think that way. Looking around, she thought, the crown prince and the queen really are looking at me with frustration. She glanced at the crown prince, and now was the perfect moment to say, Your Highness, please request the annulment of the engagement. But the crown prince avoided her gaze. She cursed under her breath, this guy, he knows what I'm hinting at. He's totally pretending not to know, huh? She bowed before the king and queen. I had to wake up early to prepare, so my body is a bit tired now. May I return home? The queen said, it was my fault for not noticing and keeping you here. Please, go home safely. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. As she walked outside, she frowned. If I want to ride the carriage, I first need to take off these high heels. My feet, are this swollen? She accidentally witnessed a conversation between Helen and Jason ahead. Wow, really? The story is unfolding like this? The ceremony wasn't the important part. What's important is what happens after the ceremony. It was the scene where the warrior Jason pledged to become Lady Helen's knight. At that moment, he drew his sword and said, I, Jason Quirg, vow, in the presence of the gods as witnesses, to serve and remain loyal to Lady Antoblamer forever. No matter the hardships and adversities that may lie ahead, I am more than willing to follow Lady Helen. No temptation will ever sway me. Helen, I wish to protect you for the rest of my life. Please, allow me to do so. Eris sighed, look at that naive girl, crying like that. If the crown prince didn't catch sight of this scene, it would be perfect. It's hard to believe, his best friend is using the pledge as an excuse to confess to the girl he loves. How could a childhood friend vow to protect her for life in the name of pure friendship? If the sword were replaced by a ring, this would be no different from a proposal. Helen is too innocent, she knows nothing about how the world really works. Then, the antagonist approached, speaking up, sorry, I came at the wrong time, didn't I, Sir Quirk? Not at all, he quickly replied. Eris said, Lady Antoblamer, it seems the queen is looking for you. Helen replied, oh, it's already time, huh? Thank you for letting me know, Lady Michian. Goodbye, Jason. Eris was sure the crown prince would chase after Helen, and she thought, if I don't interfere, there's going to be an exhausting love triangle here. Mr. Quirg looked around and said, you should pay more attention to your surroundings, it would be good for you. She replied, what are you talking about? Can't you see what's happening? Jason gently brushed her hair back and said, I'm just pretending not to know, Lady Michian. She immediately swatted his hand away. I told you last time, don't blame me for anything. The more I think about it, the more it seems like Lady Michian has misunderstood me. I warn you, Lady Michian. This time, I'm being very clear. A warning? It reminds me of the day I bullied Helena and slapped you. In the original story, Eris also bullied Helena terribly, so it's no wonder you hate her. If Eris had died a bit earlier, everyone would have been happy. Why prolong this and make each other miserable? Go ahead and stab me already. She stepped closer to him. You're holding a sword, right? Then stab me with it. Why would I do that? Seeing him take a step back, she quickly grabbed the sword, but he let it go and grasped her wrist instead. She looked straight into his eyes. If you've warned me, then you must be determined to kill your opponent. Who are you? His question felt strange. After all, Lord Quirg didn't care about her. Sitting in the carriage, she thought, just as Jason knows nothing about Eris, I know nothing about this Black Knight either. His name doesn't even appear in the novel. He always stood in the shadows, and even his face wasn't clearly described. This man is Eris's only aide, someone who loves her unconditionally, yet he meets me instead of Eris. I am not Eris. What if I don't love him? I can't overlook the possibility of betrayal, this is so frustrating. At that moment, she asked, why is it you? You could find other masters, right? Anakin replied, I don't have the right to choose, but you do. You are both the lady of the Michian family and the fiancée of the crown prince. I never thought you would overlook so many knights and choose me for such noble reasons. She looked at him, thinking, I didn't expect him to love Eris so much. She responded, that's right. While I'm not around, I don't care what the knights of the family say. You just need to forget about it. She remembered her father's advice, always have someone do the tasks that cannot be disclosed, and don't tell anyone. If everything is exposed, be prepared with someone to take the blame. She continued, so, be prepared to die for me. She had grasped Anakin's weakness and knew he couldn't resist her. She was confident she wouldn't let him go, which was why she chose him. After a long, tiring day, she lay down on the bed, her hand accidentally brushing against the mirror under her pillow. She was startled to see a witch appear in the mirror and screamed in panic. The maid, hearing the commotion, rushed in. "Miss, is everything all right? There's just a bug that flew in. Don't worry. You can go back to your room." That really scared me. Once the maid left, she continued to ponder the witch's earlier words. My sister said that you cannot break the laws of causality merely with a human body. If you want to break those laws, you must pay a corresponding price. A human life is still too cheap compared to the price needed, unless it's something as grand as the heart of Mother Nature. She asked, "So, have you asked the priest about how to escape from here?" The priest said that my soul in that body must die for me to have a chance to escape. Right now, that body is just a soulless shell. So it's very difficult to accomplish. I see. But there's this way, if you don't break the laws of causality, you might be able to escape. She continued to ask, what way is that? The witch replied, in times of turmoil, heroes emerge as a principle of causality. Someone will appear to save the world, and another will live and die to give that person motivation. The world is like a delicate clock. If one part goes awry, the entire connection will collapse. So if I break the laws of causality, what will happen? Typically, it leads to death. If you want to break the laws of causality, you must pay a significant price. Otherwise, you'll have to fulfill the obligations that fate has predetermined. What is Eris's obligation? To kill Helena. So now you know. If I kill Helena, I'll be sentenced to death, and in the end, I'll draw closer to death. If I don't break the laws of causality, is there any other way to help me? Certainly, if your soul dies in this land, you will reincarnate here. That is the law. She was surprised. I can be reincarnated? Yes. But if you can find a way to break the laws of causality, you'll be able to escape. As long as you have a few items for the offering, you can return to your true body. What are the offerings? We are still searching. But it's not easy to find, haha. Are you joking with me? Don't be disappointed. My sisters and I are working hard to find them. In this empire, no one is an outsider. Hybris also said that no one escapes from here alive. Finding a way out through the specter isn't easy, but the rewards later on will definitely be substantial. Rewards later on? Yes. You drank that contract, didn't you? Drank what? What contract? The very potion of unknown origin that you drank. Oh my. How could I have consumed something without knowing the contents of the contract? That's not fair. There's nothing unfair about it. You hold my life, and I hold yours. So this contract is entirely fair, isn't it? If I learn anything more, I'll contact you. This winter, remember to dress warmly when you go outside, she advised. I know, she replied. But wait, what if something dangerous happens? Find a large mirror, you know, the witch said before disappearing. The overload of information made her feel exhausted. As she thought back, she realized she hadn't seen Anakin since entering the estate. Was he settling in well? While pondering, she whispered softly, Anakin. Immediately, Anakin appeared before her. Did you call for me? Surprised, she thought, how did he come so quickly? Did he overhear my conversation with Maddie? Can you come inside, she asked. Yes, one of the most important qualities of a knight is to keep their master's secrets. So, he heard everything. She continued, are you a master swordsman? Something like that. I can discern different traces, but my swordsmanship isn't entirely exceptional, so it wouldn't be accurate to call myself a master swordsman, he replied. She asked, you heard everything about me. What do you think? As she looked at him, she thought, if this man intends to expose my dealings with the witch, I need to decide quickly. I could either kill him or insult him as a foolish speaker. If I plan to manipulate him as a close confidant, I have no choice. Anakin said, you're not from this world, are you? She stood up, sighing. That's right. To be precise, I am not Eris, I am not from this world. So, you want to return to the world you originally came from, right? Yes. If that's the case, can I help you? Why is he so calm about this? Is he not surprised to learn that I'm an outsider in this world? He even dares to associate with a witch. He continued, it seems you're starting to doubt me. Although your words sound crazy, I don't doubt them at all. Is Anakin crazy? Living in the alley for too long makes one realize that people often criticize this world. Being mad is a common occurrence. Those who aren't crazy find it hard to survive in this place. You must be somewhat deranged to endure it. She stepped closer, questioning, is he even human? Anakin said, whether or not you are who you are isn't important. That doesn't change my job. My duty is to take orders and obey. If I were in this man's position, he wouldn't sabotage a major task for love. Even if he loves Helena, he would remain loyal to me. She felt disappointed that the knight she had chosen might judge her, yet he was entirely devoted. She sighed and said, I'm very pleased with you. Today, I still woke up in this world, but today will be very different. I will go to Lar Lart, the largest dessert shop in the country. She had deliberately made herself up to look like an ordinary person. In this place, she had no fear of being exposed. The servant entered. I heard you wanted to see your sister? Yes. What is it? I heard they finally found the whereabouts of the priest you mentioned. Where is it? We finally tracked down the priest's location, the servant replied. After revealing the information, he hurriedly stuffed the paper into his mouth. Why did you eat the paper? Didn't I tell you that keeping secrets is important? Anyway, you can't read. What if you get diarrhea? I've eaten food found on the side of the road to get by before. This tiny piece of paper is nothing. Are you sure it's safe to eat? I think so, which is why I ordered that much. Go ahead and eat as much as you like. She turned to Anakin and said, please sit down. No need. Are you defying my orders? He stood there, doing nothing, and she thought, he probably thinks he's acting like a wealthy commoner. She continued, what do you plan to do next? If you intend to travel from here to there, it will take about half a month. Half a month will be just in time for Eris's coming-of-age ceremony. After the ceremony, we must leave. She handed the boy a pouch of coins. This is your payment as I promised. The boy was delighted, thank you. I won't hide it away. I'll make sure to give part of the money to the one who gathered the information too. You've already set aside my share. Did you sell the earrings I gave you last time? She asked. No, not at all. I felt regretful. This is the first time I haven't had my wages taken away, sister. She frowned and turned to Anakin. Taken away? Was it him? Anakin said it was the boy's father. He only cared about drinking and gambling, forcing the boy to beg and then stealing all his money. But now he's dead, due to alcohol. Since the boy has no relatives, I took care of him in exchange for the rent while I was living there. She asked, and what about now? Now he takes care of himself. But he hasn't matured yet, and it will be a long time before that happens. Other adults don't want to adopt him because they think he's a scammer. But it's okay, kids in the slums often learn to live independently from a young age, the boy replied. She thought, the boy has become so self-sufficient already, I shouldn't intervene any further. She turned to see the priest and Helena eating pastries. She asked Anakin, what are they talking about? They say that since they're not nobles, they will be scolded if they go upstairs. Then should I keep listening to their conversation? Never mind, even if I don't listen, it's obvious. The whole country loves her for the good words she speaks. Helena's soul is golden. I wonder what color my soul is, she thought. I should have asked. So Hybris can smile like that too. And the crown prince always gives me that disdainful look. Even Jason only ever smiles politely. Do they laugh and have fun like that when they're with Helena? Suddenly, she felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction. In this world, if I'm not heiress, no one would be willing to hold my hand, would they? Well, there is one person, one who is now on my side. With this thought, she ran quickly to find the only person in this world who would stand by her. Standing in front of Maddie's door, she knocked repeatedly. Open the door. I'm telling you to open up right now. Anakin called to her, Mistress, I told you I would help you if there was danger. It was one of those days when she suddenly wanted things she usually didn't care about. Like cotton candy that she didn't like, or when she begged to buy a trendy item that everyone in class had. In reality, she just wanted to verify one thing. Even if it's all useless stuff, it would be proof of her parents' love, that they were willing to buy it for her. Even if it meant doing things she hated, all she wanted was to see her parents standing by her side. A single person I know who always stands by me. Where have they gone? Anakin stepped forward and asked, Do you want to open this door? Yeah, she replied. I see. Well then, step back a little, Anakin said. As she stepped back, he drew his sword and struck the door with a powerful blow, shattering it to pieces. Caught off guard, she exclaimed, Oh my gosh. Anakin continued to kick the remnants of the door, completely demolishing it. He stepped inside to survey the scene. She rubbed her head and said, What are we going to do now that the door is destroyed? It was locked. I don't know who your master is looking for, but I think it's better for you to sit here and wait. As he spoke, he pulled a chair out for her to sit in. She felt utterly helpless with him, thinking, doesn't he feel the slightest bit guilty about smashing the door? With a sigh, her earlier fear quickly dissipated. Then she said, Right, if the door won't open, then smashing it is the best option. A moment later, the loud scream of Maddie echoed as she returned to witness the scene. What happened here? Maddie angrily asked, Where did you sell the mirror I gave you to contact me, that you came here to break down this innocent door? If there's even one person in this world like that, it would be great, she quickly replied, I didn't break the door. It was him. He only smashed it because it was locked. As Maddie rushed over, she started hitting Anakin repeatedly. I have to scold you. I have to scold you. But don't worry, I'll pay for the door, so don't fret. She felt a bit relieved and responded, with those words, You've calmed me down. But anyway, what's the matter that brought you here? She sighed, It's just that I'm not in a good mood. Maddie gently said, Whatever it is, just tell me. I'll help you feel better. She thought, It really feels like she wants me to leave, doesn't it? Maddie silently watched her for a moment, then raised her hand and used magic. The shards of the door slowly floated up, hovering in the air, then quickly reassembled themselves back into their original form. She gasped, That looked really impressive just now. Maddie replied, Now, follow me. Inside, everything in the room moved with magic. A teapot floated and automatically poured tea into cups. She looked at Anakin and joked, You try it first, be careful she doesn't put anything in it. Anakin responded, Sure. Maddie smiled and said, So, what should we talk about? Ah, right. Speaking of this world, what do you think? Do you know the difference between magic and magical science? Magical science arises from theology. They often say science is the life of theology, while magic is death. But anyway. The two continued their conversation around the topic of magic and magical science. Finally, Maddie said, You have the potential to become a sorceress. If in the future you can't fulfill your desires, and if you want to stay in this world, I will help you become a sorceress. Compared to marrying the prince, I think becoming a sorceress would make you much happier. At those words, she finally smiled as she imagined some future. And this is thinking of Helena, the girl as the female lead in this novel. Since she was little, her mother had often picked up a knife and said, "A beautiful girl of low status will not have a good fate, my dear." Her mother had picked up that knife countless times but ultimately put it away, intending to cut her cheek but couldn't bring herself to do it. Each time, she could only cry a lot. At that moment, she had thought, even if my mother were to scar my face, I would never blame her. I truly wouldn't mind. But the sense of her mother's debt to her made her feel heavy. As Helena grew a little older, her mother had said, "Always treat everyone well, my dear. I can't protect you forever. No matter what difficulties you face, you must always smile. Don't try to understand anything, even if you do, pretend you don't. Act as if you're foolish, that you know nothing at all. Remember that, only then can you survive." There was a time when all the palace maids made things difficult for her. During those times, she felt like a broken stone, ignored by everyone. But they couldn't do anything else because she was merely a commoner, a lowly maid. However, having once been a noble and having a close relationship with the royal family, no maid wanted to get involved with her. Antoblam. The Empress Dowager and the Crown Prince request your presence. Go at once. Right now? I'm in the middle of washing the blankets, can I finish first? How dare you? Do you want them to wait for you? Isn't there anyone to take over your chores? No. But I'll go right away before I get scolded again. I'm sorry, but if I see any delicious pastries, I'll be sure to bring some back for you. In the past, she was determined to complete her work before leaving. Even when her mother beat her on the calves and scolded her for being late, she still felt a joy in finishing her tasks that was incomparable to the pain. However, after witnessing the head maid being harshly criticized by Alex, she understood that her tardiness affected others. She realized she had no right to refuse the demands of the Empress Dowager and Alex. If she didn't arrive on time, the other maids would suffer. But if she rushed to be punctual, the other maids would have to take on more tasks in her stead. Either way, others would be implicated. Thus, no one in the palace accepted her, partly because she was a childhood friend of Alex and partly because she was forced to submit to him unconditionally. Every day, she faced rejection, returning home unable to show her sadness to her mother, who was always drunk and screaming each night. How could she afford to be weak? As for Miss Eris, from the very first meeting, that girl had loathed her deeply. Are you okay, Helena? Is something hurting? Alex asked, his voice laced with concern. Helena tried to stay calm but couldn't hide her fear. What's going on? We're having a meal, and why are you making such a fuss? Under the table, Eris had secretly kicked me hard on the shins. Not only that, but she also frequently stepped on my feet with her high heels or pushed her into embarrassing situations, relishing in my suffering. Because I was a commoner, I couldn't retaliate against Eris, and the bullying became increasingly cruel. Eris seemed very displeased that a commoner like me was invited to the tea party by Alex. On that day, Eris locked Helena in a room. Helena pleaded, "Eris, please let me out. Don't call me Eris anymore. Don't you know your place, you ordinary girl? Just because the prince treats you kindly, do you think you're a noble? Someone from a rebellious background like you dares to dream of elevating your status? But, it was the prince's order. I can't refuse. Why should I care about your matters? I know all about your pretending to be sick or breaking your own leg. If you act out of your station one more time, I won't let it go, understood?" At that moment, Helena was terrified. "Please, let me out." Fortunately, Alex found her. "Oh my goodness, I found Helena. Why are you here? Are you okay? Who did this?" "I will definitely find out who did this and make them pay." Immediately, Eris rushed over to hug Helena. Helena, thank goodness. You have no idea how worried I was. Helena couldn't hide her discomfort as she watched Eris act in front of everyone. Eris. I have hated her since that day. From then on, Helena experienced shortness of breath whenever she entered dark and cramped spaces. Helena continued to wonder what made Eris act like this. Eris was a spirited person who always had to try twice or 3 times as hard as others. Perhaps that was why she always pushed herself and behaved so harshly. Helena remembered that if she hadn't accepted the Empress Dowager and Alex's invitation that day, and if she hadn't accidentally seen Eris crying, she might have continued to hate her. Helena reminded herself to avoid Eris, for if she were discovered, Eris would not be able to bear it. Suddenly, Helena heard Alex's voice. Helena, so you're here. I've been waiting for you, but I wanted to come greet you myself. Helena replied, Alex, just stay there. Let me come over to you. I think I can't let him see Eris here. Eris, realizing someone was approaching, quickly wiped her tears and appeared as if nothing had happened. Oh my, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Miss Ento Blamer is here too? It's been a long time since we last met. The weather is so nice, why don't we go for a walk together? Helena thought about Eris. Why does she behave like that? Even though we can't fully understand each other, on that early summer day when the sunlight sparkled down, I had resolved that no matter how much she hurt me, I would always forgive her. At that moment, in the sitting room, Eris had received information about Priest Meuse, and she longed to see him immediately. However, the place was quite remote, and she couldn't come up with an excuse to go there without raising suspicion. One of the maids asked, Miss, are you planning to travel this summer? Yes, Eris replied, her mind suddenly thinking about the new railway that was about to be inaugurated. That's right, the Demon City's railway. It's much faster than horse-drawn carriages and can carry a lot of passengers. Eris had an idea. If I take the train, the travel time won't be an issue. This is definitely something I need to entrust to Anakin. Today is also the day before Eris's coming-of-age ceremony. In this country, the coming-of-age celebration lasts all day, and sleeping is forbidden because, according to legend, if one sleeps, their soul will be invaded by demons. Everyone will stay at the palace and go to the temple the next morning. After receiving blessings from the Grand Minister, we will return to the palace and spend the entire evening at the banquet. Anakin asked, will the banquet last until morning, miss? That's right, I replied, on the day of the coming-of-age ceremony, sleeping is not allowed. I see. What about your coming-of-age ceremony? Have you had one? He replied, during the relief activities of the temple, they included a coming-of-age ceremony for poor children, miss. So what? Even though it is a ritual, it means nothing to those poor children who have to face the harshness of life. But when the coming-of-age ceremony is over, the temple will distribute food and clothing, so most of them attend, miss. But I'm not interested in those children. I want to hear about you. He sighed and then said, they woke me up early in the morning, gave me something to eat, and made me pray after sprinkling holy water on my head. I couldn't sleep at all, nor was there a banquet all night like you might think. The most important thing is that after that, I received clothing and food. The temple must have some subsidy money, right? I asked. Perhaps, but someone has been pocketing it. They are very careful, afraid of being robbed if they give out money. But even just distributing items, many adults snatch them up to sell. As for me, I sold everything before they could get their hands on it. Is there anything you truly wanted to keep, like the clothes and food you sold? I want a sword, not one made from a branch, but a real sword with a blade and weight. If you want, I can buy you a better one, I suggested. Thank you, miss, but to protect someone, a regular sword is usually more comfortable to use. All right then, the attendants will probably come to wake you up at sunrise tomorrow, so you should go to bed early now. That's true. In the dim light, I noticed he always walked 3 steps behind me, maintaining just the right distance. I wondered if this was the safe distance he always kept to protect me. This thought pleased me. In this empire, during the coming-of-age ceremony, it is mandatory to wear a veil to prevent any wicked thoughts from escaping a person's mind. The Grand Minister would sprinkle holy water on my head for purification. Then, he would lift the veil and bless my life, ensuring I wouldn't encounter sin. After that, he would apply perfume to my eyelids and lips, marking the end of the ritual. However, strangely, after lifting the veil, Hybris stood there staring at me, not applying the perfume. After a moment, he reached out to brush my eyelids. I whispered, "Sir, you forgot the perfume." Upon hearing the reminder, he looked flustered. This certainly wasn't the first time he had performed the ceremony, so why was he acting so awkwardly? My lips still hadn't been anointed with perfume, and his hand hesitated. I opened my eyes to look and thought, this method is so clumsy. Then I leaned forward, gently letting my lips touch his finger and said, "Is this done now?" "Anakin, let's go, I have a lot to do."